The special counsel's January 6th investigation has been ramping up, and while we know that Georgia has been a key focus, we hadn't heard as much about Arizona until now. Tonight, there is new reporting that Jack Smith's office has subpoenaed the office of the top election official in the state as part of his investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. The Arizona Republic is reporting that this subpoena came as recently as May, and it was seeking information on two lawsuits, one from the Trump campaign and another from the former Arizona Republican Party chair, Kelly Ward, that alleged fraud and errors in the election results. This also comes on the heels of reporting that Donald Trump pressured the former Republican governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey, to overturn the election results, with Ducey later telling a donor he was surprised that the special counsel, Jack Smith, hadn't called him. My first guest tonight testified before the January 6th committee about a call that he got from Trump pressuring him to do things he couldn't do to overturn the election results when he was Arizona's Republican Speaker of the House. And Rusty Bowers joins me now. Rusty, as you are looking at this and we're learning about this subpoena to the Secretary of State's office, what does it say to you about the state of this investigation?
Well, that it keeps going. And, it appears that a justice, whatever that means on any given issue in America, grinds on. And it's taken a while, but it just seems to keep going. And ultimately, I hope that all concerned have their time before justice. And I don't wish anybody any ill, but justice grinds on.
Have their time before justice. I mean, we're hearing about Trump also pressuring the governor of your state at the time. You also got a call from Trump around that time pressuring you directly. Had you ever heard about this call with Trump and Governor Ducey? I mean, what do you make of how wide-ranging the pressure campaign was in your home state?
Well, Governor Ducey is not a pushover, and he is very focused on his job. He always was. We saw differently on issues, but he was always very focused on what he wanted to do for Arizona. So he didn't make me aware of it, and nor did he have to. He was supportive of us when we first put out our press release about what had happened to us, the petition from Giuliani and Trump, and that if in the absence of any proof, there was nothing we would do. We would not do anything without proof. And he congratulated me for that letter, but he never mentioned his own call with the president. I remember he did hang. He did take a call one time when Hail to the Chief came on his phone during one of the certifications. But so he wasn't a pushover, but I am surprised. It's pleasant to know that he also was getting it.
Yeah, you weren't alone in that. He did tell a donor that he was surprised the special counsel, Jack Smith, had not called him. Were you surprised by that? Do you think Jack Smith should talk to Governor Ducey?
I don't tell prosecutors what to do. If he feels that there's information that former Governor Ducey has, I definitely think he should ask him. If it's pertinent information, he should ask. I'm not opposed to him asking. He doesn't ask me for opinions. You are.
Yes,
but
have you been? Rusty, have you? We talked about your call with Trump and with Giuliani, as you just mentioned there. They were both on that phone call. Have you been subpoenaed by the special counsel?
That's a great question. I'm hesitant to talk about any subpoenas, etc., but I have been interviewed by the FBI.
In the January 6th investigation? In the effort to overturn the election results.
Correct. It was 4 hours of a discussion that they had with me. Very professional.
When was that interview?
It was couple of months ago, 3 months ago. About the same time frame, actually.
Can you tell us what you talked about? I mean, this is news. We did not know that you had spoken to Jack Smith's team. Can you talk about what you offered to them? What information?
I offered them nothing new. They seemed to have a good grasp on all of the testimony that I'd given and all of the interviews that I had given to the Arizona Republic and people from the Washington Post. They were very aware of the January 6th committee testimony that I gave. There may have been something that I said that was of interest, but I don't remember anything standing out that had not been mentioned before.
Did you turn over any documents to them?
That I don't remember. I know I gave a lot of documents to my attorney, and I still have a lot of documents, but I don't know if they're important or not. I have the proof, whatever that meant. That was the proof that I'd asked for, but it was hardly the proof that I sought.
What kind of documents was it? Emails, text messages, phone records, anything like that?
The players with the Trump administration I want the names of all of the illegal aliens. I want the names of all of the dead people. I want the names of all of the service people who had their documents stolen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they said, we've got them, we'll give them to you. I said, that's the proof I need in order to have any semblance of the necessary threshold that you do something this big. Now we're talking now, what, a year and a half ago? And or more. And that never came, but I did finally get what was they considered proof. And it was a couple of letters from legal professors. It was a term paper from one of my colleagues on this theory of law. It was several things that were entertaining, and a bunch of tear sheets for ballots, wherein the ballot entries and exits of the ballots in their 200 ballot lots came into the elections officials. There was no names, nothing else. And so I tongue squarely in my cheek, I say it's the proof. And that's all the proof I ever got.
I'm assuming they also asked you about that phone call with Trump and Giuliani directly, where you said, they called you after you had left church one day and were basically asking you to do things you said you couldn't do.
That's correct. They did. We went over that briefly. We went over the next call. He called me twice. The second time only from Trump. And none of those bore resemblance to what he said I said in that email before the January 6th commission. But I guess he's a free citizen of the empire. He can say what he wants.
Given they asked you about Trump, is it clear to you that this investigation is focused directly on the former president, or what sense did you get of the direction of that investigation?
I think it's broad because there's a lot of information about attorneys that worked with them, about Mr. Giuliani that made the calls and visited us, and other members of his team, who they were, when the meetings were, what was discussed in those meetings or in that meeting. And so I presume that all of them are involved. How that shakes out as threshold evidence, I don't know. I just dabble with a paintbrush, but
we've heard that they were looking at other attorneys. Did they ask you about Sidney Powell, Kenneth Chesebro, any of these other attorneys that we know that had been a focus of Jack Smith, something they'd been looking into?
Mr. Eastman,
John Eastman,
was that we mentioned specifically. I don't know if Mr. Epstein is an attorney, but he also had called, and I believe we discussed his phone call to me later, much later.
Can you refresh our memory on the call? Because you're talking about Boris Epstein, who is someone who is still often seen with Trump. He was in court with Trump in New York when he got indicted here in Manhattan. Can you remind us the nature of that call that he had to you?
There was a bill that one of my former colleagues, Mr. Fincham, had introduced into the legislature that he wanted me to hear. And it would take the ballot outcome of the 2020 election and put that outcome on the ballot for the people of Arizona to vote on whether they still felt that way or not. It would, if they voted against that election, then it would be thrown out. That was the essence of this bill. And I said, I'm not going to hear that. Well, let's just say I won't hear that bill. And Mr. Epstein was trying to convince me that that was a good bill and that I should do it. And we had he had 5 or 6 shots at trying to find a pivot that he could get me to accept that it was a good idea. None of them were good ideas, and I wouldn't do it. But that was our conversation, was just to support the Fincham effort, and I would not do that. I have a little more respect for what I do than that.